This is Energy Perspectives, a weekly podcast produced in Guyana that delves into the developments unfolding in the world's fastest growing economy.
Hi there. Welcome to this week's episode of the Energy Perspectives podcast. I am your hostess, a CEO of the Guyana Energy Conference and Supply Chain Expo, Kiana Wilberg. Today, we are turning the spotlight on the financial services industry. Joining us for this special discussion today is the accomplished Dr. Michelle Mosley, a dedicated business consultant and financial coach who will share valuable insights with us, not just about her company, but how you can also employ strategies to achieve financial freedom. Dr. Mosley, welcome to our podcast. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for having me, Kiana. I absolutely love the idea of being here today to share some of the information with regards to financial literacy.
Great. I'll jump right into my questions. Now, first of all, tell us a bit about your journey into the financial services industry and what inspired you to start up your own company.
Well, it could go a long way back. You have enough time? I started back in Guyana actually I worked at a bank many years ago here, and then I it kind of segue into teaching what was then a diluted form of economics, principles of business. You might have heard of that topic, and I think the interest in that just kind of was the pivot point, if you will, that kind of catapulted me into that space. So naturally, when I went to Canada, what did I do? I started looking at everything to do with financial literacy. And I recall, talking to one of my cousins who was in Canada for many years and asking him, how do I get into the financial services industry? And he said to me, do your mutual funds. I said, what is a mutual fund? And he said, look, I don't have time to explain. Get the course, get started, and you will understand. And I never looked back after that. From then on, every single facet of my life was focused on learning more. I actually, in my life within the financial services industry, have actually worked within every single role you can think of.
Wow.
I traded stocks, I traded bonds, mutual funds, options, derivatives, you name it. And then I moved into branch compliance. So I was a branch manager for an investment firm for about 6 or 7 years. I had my own practice as a financial advisor, managing clients' investments on an individual basis, obviously, and even some of them that has their own corporation. So I think what led me to that was happenstance, but what kept me there was curiosity and understanding how important financial literacy is.
Excellent. Now, MSM Coaching Practice. v- What inspired the birth of that? And tell us a bit about what your company does.
Okay, so let's first address the MSM. I was in Ghana recently, and I was on a radio show, and the gentleman said to me, "What does MSM means?" And I said, "You're going to be really, really surprised. It's very complex. It's my name." Michelle Simone Mosley. And what birthed the idea of MSM Coaching Practice is that I wanted now to step away from, the corporate world, if you will, and just use all of my knowledge and expertise to guide not just individual, but businesses in terms of financial literacy. And you would be surprised to know and I don't know, I am not talking Guyana. I am talking quite a few places that I've gone to. I've spoken in Mexico, the UK, I've spoken in Ghana the other day, and of course in Canada. And having a practice, an advisory practice, you would be surprised that people are still not as um, acquainted with some of the techniques and some of the investment facilities that are available to them, even in a developed country. So that's how MSM came in. I'm an educator I would say, by nature and by profession as well, because I am actually a professor. And all of the subjects that I teach are financial literacy. They are estate planning, fintech and innovation. They are insurance, risk management. So I do. That's the focus, if you will.
Great. Now, MSM coaching, what are some of the services you offer? Because you noted in your introduction that you have practically dabbled in almost every single role in the financial services industry. So, what are some of the services you offer through your company to cater for the different needs of businesses?
Oh, for my business side of things, because Kiana, there are other areas I do. Like I said, I do individual. I do financial literacy training for individual. But in terms of my business side of things, I like to call it twofold. So I do the consulting aspect for the business of themselves, where I try to help them to scale, help them to understand things like the risk management and tax planning, which is still a very sore point for a lot of businesses, and in particular here in Guyana, I find, right. So to have people be acquainted with that side of their financial literacy, if you will. So business consulting. But what I also do for business is offer services to their employees. So, we'll address things like, helping employees to save for their future. If you have a happy employees, believe you me, they're likely to be a lot more invested in what they're doing. I can attest to that, having been a director of operations for a company and managing the people aspect of it. I can tell you that if people know that you have a vested interest in their success, and I am not just talking their work life, I'm talking their financial life, it actually makes a really big impact. And then, of course, outside of the business side of things, I also do, like I said, individual literacy. Because when I say individual, employees are individual, obviously, but I also take that even a step further for people who might be already out of a job. They're retired, semi-retired. But like everyone else, they need financial literacy as well if they're going to move forward. The thing is, I was just talking to a 76-year-old lady and doing some estate planning for her. I just want to delve a bit into estate planning and say it forms part of the landscape of financial literacy. Estate planning for me is a big deal because it's not only taking your investment side of things, but it's taking your planning, your tax planning, your risk management planning, which is insurance, by the way, and using that to make sure that you are passing on a legacy to your generations to come, right? Not only are you helping yourself in this moment, but you're also passing that on to your generation. And that's very, very critical. And I'm talking the world over, that is critical. So I find that when I sit with individuals, like I said, I was talking to this 76-year-old lady, and I was actually doing a will and power of attorney for her. Uh, I was saying to her, it's not a one time conversation. And the reason why it's not a one time conversation is because life changes. Things happen. So let me take that 76-year-old out of the picture and put a 26-year-old in the picture. And let me ask you this. Do you think if I have a conversation today with a 26-year-old and we go over their will and power of attorney, do you think that in the next 10 years that should remain the same?
Mm, interesting.
No, because what would have happened, quite likely, that person's marital status might have changed. There's a whole host of things. They could have had a few kids as well. And there's nothing like kids that can change the dynamics of your wills and your power of attorney.
Mm,
Right. So I always tell people that you have to go back and you have to revisit those things. And that's why it's not a one time conversation. So, MSM Coaching Practice, what we do is that we want to foster conversation ongoing. So, I do a newsletter. I have a free subscription to my newsletter. I send that out on a monthly basis. I have a YouTube channel. I interview people that will bring practical solutions as well to the table, whether it's on finances or whether it's on life of itself. So every month, I will do a financial conversation and I will do a mindset, wellness, coaching, empowerment episode as well.
great. Now, we've seen the rapid developments taking place in Guyana, and of course, financial literacy, as you've underscored, um, is very important. So, first of all, what have been some of your observations regarding financial literacy in the Guyana market? And why is coaching in this regard so critical at this juncture?
I'm glad you asked that. A couple mornings ago, I think it might have been 2023, I spoke at an event held by another coach who, by the way, her name is Michelle as well. And one of the things I said to the participants is that a lot of time we don't understand the correlation between criminal activity and the lack of financial knowledge. And they looked at me as though, what? And I said, well, here's the thing. Let me take you down a path. I have one of my former students, because like I said, I taught here as well, high school. And a lot of my students are here, they're doing well. And one of them happens to be a travel agent. And when I spoke with her, I was shocked in 2023 to discover that she would have clients that will show up to her travel agency with bag loads of money to buy their ticket. Here's the thing. When Mr. Jones is going to show up at a travel agency because he's from the old school, Mr. Jones is not just going to show up at a travel agency. Mr. Jones will look as though he's going to conduct important business. Correct? So he's well dressed, and whoever is looking at Mr. Jones knows that he has in that bag money because he's looking important. I'm going to do something important. Now, he goes, he gets robbed, and everybody goes, oh, somebody must have said that he had money in his bag. Nobody said anything. It's just his appearance. Now, if we are in terms of financial literacy, what we don't take into consideration is that even the things like using cards for financial transaction, mind you, yes, of course you can get fraudulent activity from card, but it's far less. And there is the far less danger to you physically when you're able to go to that travel agency and go, here you go, and tap
Right.
that card or whatever the case might be. So there is a correlation between not understanding why efficient banking operations are necessary, why having access to certain kinds of investments, for example, this is on a slightly different tangent. People go to the bank, put their money in the bank, and get goose egg, right? Nothing. And that's the world over, right? You're in North America, you put money into the bank account, there's nothing. There's no interest. It's so low, right? But if you understand financial tools, like, do I put it in a stock? Do I put it in mutual funds? Do I put it into what we call a guaranteed investment certificate, commonly known as GIC, which could get me better returns? If you understand that, you can look at scaling up and growing your wealth. And it comes with that financial literacy, that understanding of what's available to you.
Indeed. Now, in your experience, what are some of the most common challenges that businesses face, and particularly within the Guyana context, what have been some of your observations, some of the common pitfalls?
I've talked to a few business people, and I should let you know here I've held two seminars here in Guyana, and they were financial literacy. The first one in 2023, I did it with Guyana Americas Bank, solely as the speaker, Richard Asava from Guyana Americas Bank, and that was about saving and investment basics. Understanding some of that from the point of view of a business and from the point of view of an individual. Because what a lot of businesses face here in Guyana are things like understanding tax planning, risk management. And I like to tell people all the time that risk management involves insurance. It's a big one. And a lot of companies in Guyana, part of what they face is that they are underinsured or uninsured. It's two different things, because they could, say all I need is 100,000. But if someone were to do an actual assessment of their business, may say, actually, what you need is 2 million, not 100,000. 100,000 will do nothing for your business if it were to go, pardon the expression, belly out. All right. So they're underinsured, or in some cases, people wing it because there's not enough information, there's not enough knowledge. So they wing it thinking that I don't need that. And when your business go up in flames, what happens? You either have to walk away because you cannot afford to do anything about it. This is where risk management comes in, and that's sadly lacking that's been my kind of my experience here in talking to a few people, because I'm doing some feasibility studies. I want to go back to the question before, because you did ask about the coaching part and why is it important. I'll tell you what, when I did my second iteration of my seminar, I named it Evolve, pardon me. I named it Evolve and for a reason, right? I didn't want to come back and speak just about financial literacy. That's not helping anyone, especially if they don't have the available tools to execute. And Guyana has 3 mutual funds. In Canada alone, we have about 5,000. And that's just mutual funds. We're not talking stocks, we're not talking bonds, we're not talking guaranteed investment certificates, all investment tools and vehicles that you can use, right? But we have to start someplace. But my thing is, if I come here and I only talk about, hey, invest, save, I am missing the mark for so many people. So last year, what I did, I brought a few people from Canada, one from the States, and of course, people right here from Guyana. And what we did, we talked about financial literacy, but we talked about mindset shift, hence the name Evolve. Because my premise is that if you don't understand that you have to pivot, you have to have a newer look at how things are rapidly developing in Guyana, you would miss the mark. There's no question about it. And investment doesn't even come into the picture for you because you don't have that mindset shift. You don't understand the importance.
Indeed. As we wrap up this aspect of our program, I want to ask you for your final thoughts and perhaps a message to the Guyanese business community on the importance of advancing their financial literacy.
You know, I'm going to go back to what I said because this is a big part of what I believe that is missing in Guyana. And that is risk management. I really think a lot of people don't understand just how important it is to not only grow the business, and that's important, right? That's what's going to feed us, right? But how do we continue to scale that business without having the right kind of controls around them? That control, when I say risk management, I'm not just talking about the insurance, very, very critical it is, but I'm also talking about the tax planning that could actually destroy a business if you're not careful. If you don't have the right kind of tax planning, there's so many things could be seized from you, etc., that could stall your business. And if your business is stalled, where's the profitability? How can you manage that? So if I'm going to, my last word would be, listen, you go there, you've learned enough, you want to start your business, kudos, very good. But understand all of the dynamics, understand everything, all of the parameters around the business that you should be looking into, because it's not just about setting up the business. We all can do that. It's about maintaining and scaling that business. And with that come all of that I said before, tax planning, risk management, and everything else that comes with a business.
Dr. Mosley, you have certainly given us much food for thought, and I want to thank you for participating in the Energy Perspectives podcast. I know that our audience will be walking away with a lot of really interesting perspectives that they can think of throughout the week. And once again, we want to thank you for sharing your insights with us, sharing your knowledge. To our audience, thank you as well for joining us. Be sure to join us as well next week, same time, same place, as we bring you more insights from thought leaders here and around the world. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Guyana Energy Perspectives podcast. Listen to us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcast.